May 1968. Nui Dat Forward Operating Base, South Vietnam. A reinforced transport case sat in the center of the command tent as a high-ranking U.S. Army colonel turned its steel latches one by one. American officers leaned forward, expecting awe. Inside was the Pentagon's newest miracle weapon, an XM-2 personnel detector, a chemical sensor worth millions of dollars, designed to smell the enemy from the sky. The Americans called it the future of warfare. The future, however, wasn't impressed. A filthy, sleep-deprived Australian SAS corporal fresh off a 10-day silent patrol through the jungle stared at the buzzing machine. He didn't smile. He didn't nod. He looked the colonel straight in the eye and delivered a warning, so blunt it froze the tent. "Sir, if your men take that thing into my jungle, I'll shoot it myself before it gets us all killed." Silence followed. Why did some of the deadliest jungle fighters in Vietnam believe American technology was a death sentence? How did $1 billion sensor network monitored by supercomputers in Thailand get defeated by a plastic bucket of buffalo urine? And how were the Australians hunting Viet Cong using nothing but their noses, their ears, and a pair of cheap tennis shoes, while the Pentagon insisted such methods were impossible? This is the untold story of high-tech humiliation. The story of why the SAS threw American gadgets into the mud to survive. To understand how primitive methods defeated advanced technology, we have to go back to the very first joint patrol where the machine said safe, but the jungle screamed run. That question, asked inside the command tent in May 1968, would haunt Pentagon analysts for decades. How could a barefoot corporal with no electronics outperform a $3.70 million machine built by the brightest minds at MIT? The answer would embarrass the most powerful military on Earth and remain classified for 40 years. The XM-2 personnel detector represented the absolute peak of American military engineering in the late 1960s. Its development consumed 7 years of research, involved more than 200 elite scientists, and promised something revolutionary: the ability to detect humans by chemical traces left behind by sweat, urine, and metabolism. The Pentagon believed it had created the ultimate hunter. What it had actually created was the ultimate liability, one that enemy commanders would later joke about. American soldiers called it the People Sniffer. Half proud, half uneasy, the device sucked jungle air through chemical filters capable of detecting ammonia at concentrations as low as 3 parts per billion. On paper, this sensitivity looked decisive. In the humid Vietnamese jungle, it became a catastrophic flaw. The sensor couldn't distinguish enemy soldiers from water buffalo. It couldn't tell a Viet Cong camp from a troop of monkeys. It triggered alarms from rotting vegetation, animal waste, and natural jungle decay. Helicopter crews returned with hundreds of positive readings from a single flight. Each alert triggered artillery, airstrikes, or bombing runs. Millions of dollars in munitions were expended on empty jungle. The enemy quickly realized something devastating. The Americans weren't hunting them. They were hunting smells, and smells could be manipulated. While American contractors worked overtime refining chemical sensitivity, Australian SAS operators followed a completely different philosophy, one born from centuries of jungle fighting. They called it the smell doctrine. It wasn't technology. It was evolution. 3 days before patrol, Australian operators stopped using soap, toothpaste, deodorant, anything artificial. They switched to Vietnamese food, especially fermented fish sauce so pungent that American troops refused to share helicopters with them. The smell was unbearable to Western noses. That was the point. By eliminating foreign scents and adopting the local diet, Australians became invisible to enemy trackers who had learned to identify Americans by the smell of soap, insect repellent, and processed food. The Viet Cong hunted Americans by smell. Australians smelled like locals. Even more powerful was what came next. By saturating their own senses with jungle odors, SAS operators could detect microscopic changes, smell signatures no machine could interpret. Fresh tobacco smoke, cooked rice, and properly buried waste. Weapons oil, recently washed bodies. Recently arrived supplies from North Vietnam. 7 distinct categories of human presence detected without batteries, noise, or false confidence. Fresh tobacco could be smelled at 200 meters. Cooked rice at 150. Human waste at 300. Weapons oil at 100. No logistics. No maintenance. No million-dollar contracts. Just training. Then came the moment it should have ended the People Sniffer program. Instead, it was classified and funding continued. Within months, the Viet Cong fully understood the device's weaknesses. Their response was devastatingly simple: plastic buckets. Buffalo urine. Hung from trees. A single bucket cost nothing. The American response cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. In October 1968, a People Sniffer helicopter detected what appeared to be a regimental-level enemy headquarters northwest of Saigon. Commanders ordered massive strikes. 4 Phantoms dropped napalm. Artillery followed. Over $300,000 in ordnance was expended. 2 days later, ground troops arrived. They found 47 plastic buckets filled with buffalo urine. Nothing else. No bodies. No weapons. No footprints. $20 had purchased $300,000 worth of bombs and priceless intelligence on American response patterns. But the People Sniffer wasn't even the worst failure. That honor belonged to Project Igloo. White. Beginning in 1967, the U.S. Air Force seeded the Ho Chi Minh Trail with thousands of seismic sensors. Each one fed data to IBM supercomputers in Thailand. The goal was total battlefield awareness. The cost exceeded $1 billion. The results were meaningless. Rainstorms triggered mass alerts. Animals activated sensors. Jungle movement overwhelmed analysis systems. Computers couldn't tell a soldier from a raindrop. Meanwhile, Australian patrols with no electronics were detecting enemy platoons purely by smell and sound. In one joint patrol, an Australian corporal halted his team 300 meters from a location American sensors had cleared minutes earlier. He smelled fresh tobacco and rice. The People Sniffer detected nothing. The Australians altered course and found a concealed enemy platoon of 30 men. The corporal cost nothing. The machine cost millions. The machine found buffalo urine. The man found the enemy. And that is why the SAS believed American technology wasn't just useless. It was lethal.